It started on a day that felt ordinary enough. I had moved into the capital city of Aloria not long ago, drawn by rumors of advanced technology and political intrigue that pulsed through its crystalline streets. My life was quiet, almost dull, until the moment I saw her, Lyra, the palace chambermaid with eyes that seemed to contain entire galaxies. She worked in the corridors of Queen Celine's palace, a place I had no business being near, yet fate had other plans. I was delivering supplies to a research wing of the palace, something I did every week. I was careful, never straying into the restricted zones, but that day curiosity got the better of me. A small accident, a tipped cart, a spilled serum, forced me into the palace corridors, where I met Lyra. She wasn't frightened or haughty, despite the setting. Instead, she smiled softly, as if she had been waiting for me. "I know who you are," she said, her voice a whisper that seemed to vibrate through the walls. "And I've been hoping you'd come this way." I blinked. "You know me?" "Not everything," she said, brushing back a strand of her silver hair. "But enough." She gestured for me to follow her, leading me through a labyrinth of hallways, staircases that defied gravity, and doors that shimmered as if alive. I felt like I had stepped into another world. Eventually, we reached a small chamber, its walls lined with what looked like living metal. Screens floated in midair, displaying images I couldn't begin to understand. Lyra turned to me, her expression unreadable. "There's something you need to know," she said. "Something about me, about us." I laughed nervously. "Us? We just met." She shook her head, her eyes glinting. "We've been tied by fate longer than you know. I'm not just a chambermaid. I'm of royal blood. My father, a prince of another realm, was exiled. My mother, well, she entrusted me to Queen Celine for protection. And now, I must tell you, I am meant to marry you." I choked on my own disbelief. "Marry me? I barely know you." "You will," she said firmly. "And the Queen approves. I've spoken to her. She trusts you. She trusts that you are the one." Her words were incredible, ludicrous even. And yet, I felt a strange certainty settle in my chest, a warmth that defied logic. I didn't know how, but I believed her. Over the next few days, Lyra guided me through the palace, teaching me the subtle rules and unspoken codes of court life. She was patient but insistent. "You need to understand the realm," she said, "before we can truly be together. People will judge you, not me, not the queen, but them. And you must be prepared." She showed me the archives where ancient treaties were stored, the training chambers where royal guards practiced their skills, and even a secret garden where plants sang in harmonies I could almost comprehend. Through it all, she never stopped smiling, never stopped reminding me that this was not a dream. One evening, as we watched the twin moons rise over the palace spires, she spoke again. "There's another reason the Queen approves. She knows you've saved lives, lives she could not protect. She sees your courage, and she knows your heart." I wanted to protest. I had done nothing extraordinary, but she only shook her head and touched my hand. The warmth that spread from her fingers to mine was enough to silence my doubts. Days turned into weeks, and the palace life became my new reality. I trained with the royal guards, studied the language of the stars, and learned the delicate art of court diplomacy. Lyra was always near, correcting my mistakes gently, laughing when I stumbled, and encouraging me when I felt overwhelmed. Yet, even in those moments of joy, a shadow lingered. Queen Celine was a formidable ruler, beautiful and severe, with eyes that seemed to pierce through lies and illusions. I could not help but wonder, did she truly approve of our union, or was this some elaborate test? The moment of truth came unexpectedly. I was summoned to the Queen's audience chamber, escorted by a pair of guards whose armor gleamed like liquid silver. My heart pounded as the massive doors swung open, revealing Celine seated on a throne carved from starlight itself. "You've caused quite a stir," she said, her voice calm but commanding. "It is not often that an outsider is accepted so readily into our court." I bowed deeply. "Your Majesty, Enough." She raised a hand. "I have watched you, as Lyra has promised. You have shown courage, humility, and a certain resilience. Qualities worthy of someone who may marry my ward." I blinked, barely daring to breathe. "You approve?" Celine's gaze softened. "I do. But understand this. Our approval comes with responsibility. You are not marrying a mere girl. You are marrying a member of the royal lineage, a protector of realms, and a symbol of hope. You will be tested." "I understand, Your Majesty," I said, my voice steady despite the tremor in my chest. She inclined her head. "Then you may proceed. Lyra has told me everything, and I trust her judgment. I trust you. Do not disappoint her or me." Relief flooded through me, but it was tempered by the weight of her words. Responsibility, duty, love, all intertwined in a tapestry I was only beginning to comprehend. That night, Lyra met me in the palace garden, her eyes bright with excitement and something softer, vulnerability. "She told me," I said, taking her hand. "The Queen approves." Lyra's smile was radiant, but her fingers trembled slightly. "I wanted to tell you in my own way," she said. "But now we can plan. We can finally be together." We spent hours wandering through the glowing flora, speaking of the future, of shared dreams and whispered secrets. She told me stories of her childhood in exile, of nights spent hiding from those who would use her lineage for power, and of the loneliness she had endured despite the grandeur of the palace. "I want you to know," she said, her voice almost breaking, "that my love is not just for comfort. It is for courage. For who you are, not what you will become in my world." I pulled her close, feeling the strange blend of fear and hope settle into my bones. "I promise I will be worthy," I said. "Not because of your blood or the Queen's favor, but because of you." Her laughter, light and melodic, echoed among the petals of the night-blooming flowers. "Then we begin," she whispered. Preparations for the ceremony were unlike anything I had imagined. The palace buzzed with activity, artisans shaping ceremonial robes that shimmered with the essence of stars, alchemists creating potions to ensure a lifetime of health, and musicians tuning instruments that played melodies only audible to those bound by magic. I trained tirelessly, not only to appear competent, but to truly embody the qualities Celine had praised. Lyra remained by my side, correcting my posture, my etiquette, even the way I breathed under the weight of a crown I had not yet earned. Despite the grandeur, there were dangers. Political factions whispered in the shadows, resentful of the union between an outsider and a royal descendant. Rumors of assassination plots reached my ears, and I had to navigate not just the labyrinth of courtly manners, but also the perilous currents of palace intrigue. Yet, through it all, Lyra's presence was my anchor. She shared her own insights into strategy, taught me the silent language of the guards, and reminded me constantly that the Queen had faith in us. Her secret, her royal lineage, her trust in me, was a bond stronger than any oath. Finally, the day arrived. The palace hall was adorned with crystalline chandeliers that floated above the heads of assembled dignitaries, casting rainbows across the marble floors. Courtiers from distant realms arrived in splendid attire, their gazes fixed on the couple they were about to witness. Lyra emerged from the inner chambers, radiant in a gown that shimmered like liquid starlight, her silver hair cascading in waves. I stood waiting, my heart hammering, the weight of my promise pressing against my chest. Queen Selene approached, her presence commanding silence. She regarded me with her piercing gaze, then extended her hand to Lyra. "Are you certain?" she asked softly. Lyra nodded, her fingers brushing mine. "I am." Celine's eyes flicked to me, then back to her ward. Finally, she smiled, a rare and luminous gesture. "Then I give my blessing," she said, her voice carrying through the hall. "May your union strengthen realms, hearts, and hope itself." The hall erupted in applause, but for me, the sound was distant. My focus was entirely on Lyra, whose eyes held a galaxy of emotions I could scarcely comprehend. We joined hands, and as our vows were exchanged, I realized something profound. The Queen's approval was not merely ceremonial. It was a recognition of courage, of loyalty, and of love that had endured trials before it had even begun. When the ceremony ended, Lyra leaned close. "You see now," she whispered, "it wasn't just me who believed in you. The Queen did too. And that is a trust we must honor together." I nodded, overwhelmed with gratitude and love. "I will honor it, every day." As the weeks passed, life settled into a rhythm both magical and grounded. Lyra and I explored the hidden chambers of the palace, engaged with visiting dignitaries, and occasionally, in quiet moments, simply walked under the twin moons, speaking in whispers about dreams and stars. The Queen visited often, offering guidance and occasionally a wry smile that suggested approval deeper than the formality of court etiquette. And though challenges arose, political intrigue, jealous rivals, and the immense responsibility of representing not just one realm but several, I felt secure in a way I had never known before. Lyra's secret, once a burden she carried alone, had become a bridge between worlds, and the Queen's approval, once a distant and intimidating force, had become a source of strength. Together, we faced a universe that was vast, unpredictable, and often dangerous. But for the first time, I felt that I truly belonged. And in the quiet of our chambers, under the soft glow of the twin moons, Lyra would often whisper, "Remember, love, the Queen trusts us. And so must we." I would smile, taking her hand, feeling the unbreakable bond that had begun with a secret, blossomed with courage, and flourished under the approval of a queen. In that moment, I knew without doubt that we were destined, not just for marriage, but for a shared future that would shape the stars themselves. After the ceremony, life at the palace was a mix of duty, exploration, and unexpected joy. Lyra and I adapted to our roles not just as partners, but as symbols of unity between realms. The Queen, ever vigilant, kept a watchful eye, not as a threat, but as a guide. Her visits became less formal over time, often bringing quiet counsel or sharing stories of her own experiences of love and power. One afternoon, while we walked through the palace's floating gardens, Lyra stopped and turned to me. "There's something I've been meaning to share," she said. Her voice carried a note of hesitation I hadn't heard before. "Before you, I was unsure if I could ever trust anyone, not with my heart, and certainly not with my secrets." I took her hand gently. "You trusted me enough to tell me the truth. That's more than anyone could ask for." She smiled, but there were tears in her eyes. "I wanted to protect you at first, but the Queen, she reminded me that love isn't about protection alone. It's about partnership and courage and faith. And I see now, I see you." Her words filled me with a warmth that seemed to reach into the very core of me. I realized that the Queen's approval wasn't merely ceremonial. It was a recognition of something deeper, something eternal. In the following months, we faced challenges that tested our resolve. Political factions that opposed our union tried to undermine us with whispers and schemes, but we navigated each obstacle with a combination of diplomacy, courage, and, increasingly, intuition. Lyra's understanding of court politics, paired with my own growing confidence, allowed us to turn threats into opportunities, gaining respect and loyalty from those who had doubted us. Through it all, our bond strengthened. We spent quiet nights exploring the palace's hidden corners, floating through chambers filled with ancient artifacts, and speaking to the stars that hung over the twin moons. Lyra taught me to see the world as she did, a place where magic, science, and love intertwined in ways that were both beautiful and terrifying. Then, one evening, the Queen summoned us again. We entered the throne room with a mixture of curiosity and caution. Celine, seated upon her starlight-carved throne, regarded us with a serene smile. "You have proven yourselves worthy," she said, her voice calm and measured. "Not because of ceremony or title, but because of how you honor one another. Love is not just an emotion, it is a force. It shapes decisions, protects realms, and defines legacies. I see now that the legacy you are building together is worthy of my trust." She rose, a gesture that made the hall shimmer with quiet authority. "Remember this. The approval I gave you is not a guarantee of ease. Life will test you, but it will also reward you beyond measure because you have chosen each other freely and with courage." Lyra's eyes shone as she squeezed my hand. "Do you hear that?" she whispered. "The Queen trusts us completely." I nodded, my chest swelling with pride and gratitude. "Then we will honor her trust," I said, "in every decision, every challenge, and every triumph." And so we returned to our life in the palace, not as mere occupants, but as partners, confidants, and a symbol of hope for the people of Eloria. Our love, once secret and fragile, had grown into a force that could withstand intrigue, danger, and the weight of destiny. Years passed, and the palace witnessed our journey, not just as rulers, but as humans learning the delicate balance of love, responsibility, and power. We built alliances, healed old wounds among the realms, and discovered hidden wonders within the palace's halls that only those bound by love could truly perceive. Lyra's secret, once a source of fear and uncertainty, had become a bridge between worlds. The Queen's approval, once a distant and intimidating authority, became a source of strength, guidance, and, sometimes, gentle amusement. In quiet moments, we would walk beneath the twin moons, hands intertwined, and speak in whispers of dreams and futures. Sometimes, the Queen would join us, sharing her wisdom, reminding us that love is a journey, not a destination. One night, as we looked toward the horizon where the stars met the palace spires, Lyra whispered, "Do you remember the first time we met? The day you spilled the serum?" I laughed softly. How could I forget? It changed my life forever. She leaned her head against my shoulder. It did. And I think the Queen knew it would. She always knew. I kissed her forehead gently. Then we'll honor that knowledge, her trust, and our love for the rest of our lives. The twin moons reflected on the palace's crystalline towers, and for the first time in my life, I felt truly at home. With Lyra by my side and the Queen's blessing guiding us, the universe was vast, unpredictable, and full of wonder, but it was ours to explore together. And as we stood there, hand in hand, I realized that love, courage, and trust could create a legacy that even the stars themselves would remember. Our story, once a secret, now a testament, was only beginning. The Queen had approved our marriage, yes, but more importantly, she had entrusted us with a future that belonged to us alone. And in that trust, I found a peace deeper than any victory, brighter than any star. Our lives, intertwined by destiny, courage, and love, were ours to shape. And I knew, without doubt, that we would honor it together.